Well, I hope you're having a Merry Christmas Eve or that you had a Merry Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve afternoon as I record this. And I just wanted to begin by saying that I hope you have a Merry Christmas. I really do. But now what I wonder is how many of you were thinking, he typed the wrong form of Mary. He typed M-A-R-Y when his sign should have said M-E-R-R-Y. Well, this wasn't a mistake. I really want to suggest to you that you have a Christmas like Mary. At least partly. No need to go to Bethlehem or no need to have labor pains or anything like that. But partly be like Mary. You've already heard the story of the Christmas narrative many times, and so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read 3 verses of it again right now. We pick up the story when the shepherds have come and visited and they've just left, and that's where our story begins in Luke chapter 2, verses 17 to 19. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. I want us to look at 4 terms in that passage. The first term is amazed. The word is used to describe those who heard the shepherd's story. And the word means to fill with wonder and surprise, to astonish or astound, to surprise or perplex. New Testament scholar Dr. Earl Ellis characterizes this term as describing a shallow, short-term enthusiasm. He wrote this: "This story would make no sustained impression. Only a shepherd's tale, you know." So those hearers of the shepherd's tale were surprised and astounded by what they had heard, maybe even entertained. It was, after all, a good story, but it was quickly over. No lasting impression. The next word is that 3-letter word, but. 3-letter word, but, that begins verse 19. In this context, the word is being used to set up a comparison. The words, but Mary, means the same thing as Mary on the other hand. And so Luke is trying to point out that Mary's response was different from those who had heard the shepherd's tale. It says that she treasured all these things. As a verb, to treasure means to consider to be precious, to value highly, to store or stow in a safe place. That's a much deeper or more significant response than being amazed. Amazement is fleeting. All these things were not going to be fleeting to her. Mary was going to hang on to these memories like a treasure. As a related side trail, let me read Luke 1:1-3 for you. That is the opening words of the Gospel of Luke. "Many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. With this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus." You see, Luke was a researcher, not an eyewitness. There are some scholars who believe that Mary herself was the original source of this particular material. That is, Mary, who remembered all of the details of this narrative and had treasured them in her heart, was able to pass them on and retell the story until it eventually, her story came down to Luke because she had treasured the events. We might very well have Mary to thank for the nativity story that we all love so much. It's a good thing she treasured all these things. Next it says, she pondered them in her heart. To ponder is to think deeply, to consider something carefully and thoroughly, to chew over or mull over. Mary spent time thinking about or meditating on all of these events. She was no doubt trying to grasp the full significance of what was happening. So that brings me back to where I started. I encourage you to have a Merry Christmas. That is, this Christmas, be like Mary. It's easy for us to get excited and enthusiastic about Christmas and all the trappings that come along with it. The danger or the threat is that it will all be fleeting. When the party is over, when the Christmas lights come down, when the tree gets de-decorated, don't let the excitement and enthusiasm for the birth of Christ fade away too. Instead, treasure these things in your heart. Recognize these events for just how profound they really are. Take time to ponder all these things. Get beyond the surface and think deeply about what it all really means. And do it prayerfully. Meditate on the true significance that God the Son really became one of us. This year, have a Merry Christmas.